Good morning. Because of a conversation I had with Paige recently, I've reflected back on a lot of my experience uh, dealing with spiritual people. And so today I'm going to talk to you about the subject of spirituality and politics. Mm. This is a difficult issue for a lot of people because throughout my life, as I've been involved in religious/slash spiritual communities, I've come across numerous people, perhaps even the majority, who believe that to be a spiritual person, you can't be involved or you even shouldn't be involved in political discourse. Often, spiritual people or religious people vote, and I've seen a lot of them unwilling to even say who they voted for or why. Political discourse is just not part of the conversation. It's something to be left alone, hands off, don't want to be involved. I've never been one of those, I don't believe. I'm thinking back in my own history. Did I ever hold that viewpoint? And I guess the answer is no. I can remember even before I was able to vote, I was aware of political ideas and I had an opinion. um, I can remember spiritual or political discourse of a spiritual level or a spiritual interpretation going back even to the Nixon Kennedy election in 1960, when there were a lot of Christians that were afraid to vote for Kennedy because he was a Catholic. So I mean, I can remember that far back. I really don't remember the Eisenhower stuff. I was too young and not knowledgeable enough. But by the time of the 1960 election, I was at least somewhat aware of political dialogue going on in the country and in the church that I was involved in at the time. In any case, I'm going to share my opinion. It is my opinion. I'm not trying to convince you, but I am asking you and inviting you to look at this a little bit differently. As I look at the world that I live in, I see a lot of things that are leave a lot to be desired, let's put it that way. There seem to be a lot of decisions made at levels of government that are insane from the perspective of what is going to serve the most people and be beneficial to humanity. Wars are never beneficial to humanity. I'm convinced that if spiritual people were involved more in the political arena, we wouldn't be able to get away with waging wars endlessly, as has been happening. Why do wars happen? Because spiritual people do nothing. Spiritual people don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to be involved in something that they see as beneath them. I don't see anything as beneath me. I get involved in all sorts of controversies. I am in the world. I'm not of any of it. I'm not going to identify it identify with any segment or fraction of the world. I hold the whole world in my heart. Everything, even the politicians. Politicians don't have integrity. Why? Because people that are people of love and people of the heart and people of truth, and truth being unity consciousness, not truth being my group is better than your group and we know God and you don't. Not that kind of truth. That sectarian truth is part of the problem. But the fact that spiritual people feel they have to keep their hands off of political involvement is the reason why the political situation is so dire in the world today, why it has come to the place where it's insane. If you really, really look at it, and there's a lot of people I know, a lot of people don't even look at it. They don't even want to look at things. They want to bury their head in the sand and pretend everything is going to go away and become wonderful if we'll just not focus on what's wrong. It's a sure method of disaster from my point of view. I'm sharing my opinion with you. You can take it or leave it. In the United States, we have the best government money can buy. I truly believe that a lot of people enter politics with ideological, or I should say, idealistic viewpoints, and they really want to make a difference in the world. And then they get in there, and that's not how the game is played. The idealists quickly are challenged either by money bribes from corporations or special interest groups, or they're bribed by sexual improprieties and getting involved in sexual improprieties. They become blackmailable right off the bat when they get in there. All their idealism vanishes as they are dangled temptations before them, which will exploit their natural weaknesses or the areas of their lives that they don't want to be made public. And that's certainly a recipe for blackmail, when you're ashamed of yourself. But anyway, the politicians end up being subverted from their idealism, and they buy completely into the system, and they are controlled. And so decisions that are made in the best interests of those with a lot of money that want to rule the world and control the people for their own benefit, for their own selfish interests, for greed, for power, for control. And we, the spiritual people, because we have been unwilling to get involved and tell our truth, it continues to happen. When I spoke at the New Way back in January, Sue, our minister, pulled me aside half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever it was, before it was time for me to speak. And she said, I don't want you to speak about anything political because we are a 501c3 and that's against the rules. And the rules, of course, set up by the IRS, which is an unlawful agency, which is a collection agency for an unlawful group of bankers known as the Federal Reserve, required my spiritual community to require of me that I give up my freedom of speech, which is one of my natural, unalienable rights. This is how spiritual people acquiesce and allow a system of injustice and insanity to continue in the world. We don't want to stand up for what is right. We want to stand up for what the rules are and obey the rules. Interestingly, there was a dialogue on one of the videos that I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago, and a gentleman came in and said, soldiers have a responsibility to obey their orders, period. Actually, he didn't say period. It was exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, at least 3 of them. Obeying orders in a political world is not how we're going to change the world and make it a nicer place and bring peace to everyone and fairness to everyone and justice for all. We're not going to achieve those ideals by playing by the rules and staying within the lines. We have to connect all the dots. The political dot is an important dot. And we have to be aware, in my opinion again, of what is going on in our world. We need to know about it because we helped create it. We create either through unconsciousness or through consciousness. When we do it through unconsciousness, look at the results. That's how we've created the world that we live in. It is the product of our consciousness, which has chosen to be unconscious. Well, I don't want to play in that arena. I don't care what's going on in the world. And we bitch and complain because of things that we really do care about, but we didn't speak up for. It's not just in the United States. I'm sure this is true all over the world. And I'm really, really proud of Middle East nations and demonstrations in Latin America that have occurred over the past number of years, where the people have taken to the streets and stood up. In Great Britain and in the United States too, but around the world, people are beginning to wake up and say, wait a minute, something's really wrong with our politics. Integrity has flown the coop, and we've got to let our voices be heard, because governments derive their power from the people. It is the truth. And when the people don't exercise their own power, injustice will reign. The bad guys that are trying to wake us up, in my opinion, maybe whether that's conscious or unconscious on their part, the effect is that they are providing the means to wake us up, which often means getting angry when we understand the way things work. But underneath the anger is a beautiful love. A beautiful love is under the anger. So it's, that's why I'm not afraid of anything, you see. I'm not afraid to talk about anything for the most part. There is one subject that I may broach at some time in the future that is really, really personal, that I feel if I broach that subject, which isn't politics, by the way, I'm going to lose a lot of people. I mean, that is an honest fear, and I will face that fear, because I'm here right now in this ninth wave to become whole, to exercise all of my personal demons, to face all of my fears honestly and openly before whoever wants to listen, whoever wants to hear what I'm saying. I will share me with you. I will open my heart to you and tell you my truth. I will be vulnerable. This is part of why I am sharing this political and spiritual thing. It is very spiritual to embrace everything, including the politics, including every area where we have been divided and separated from each other, where we have judged each other. Every area needs to be explored, every single one of them in this ninth wave. Because in order to achieve unity, in order to experience oneness and peace on earth, we need to understand why we haven't done so in the past. This is our evolution. We are waking up, and now we need to take back our power and to tell our truth and to speak boldly and honestly, regardless of the consequences. I think I'm going to leave that with you this morning, and another day will be another topic, or maybe a continuation of this one. God only knows. I don't know at this point in time what tomorrow's will be. But for today, I ask you, if you've been one of those that has been on the fence and saying, I don't want to be involved in politics, I ask you to reconsider that and consider paying attention to what's happening in the world. I have to add one more thing. When I look at channeled messages, and I like a lot of channeled messages. I like Mike Quincy and John Smallman and Sheldon Neidl, although I don't agree with all of them in every respect. One of the reasons that those three, and Matthew, messages from Matthew, one of the reasons I like them is because they address political realities. The channels that don't address political realities and don't want to get involved, I don't like them as much. I don't believe they're looking at the world honestly. Anyway, I wanted to share that one last thought before I closed, but I am closing now. Namaste. Have a beautiful day, and God bless you. Thank you.